This recession, by the way, I think will probably overcome that recession, largely because we're doing the wrong things. We're making this recession worse. Just as government policy in 1937 and 1938 induced a second depression that need not have happened. What do I speak of when I say we're making things worse? It's because we still embrace, as we always do in recessions, a Keynesian view that these three actors somehow, if they operate, will solve this problem. Let's think for a moment about how Detroit got to be Detroit. It was, as I said a moment ago, the magic, the hard work of entrepreneurs. Your city exists because of the innovations, the absolute breakthrough innovations of not one or two or three or four entrepreneurs, but hundreds and thousands of entrepreneurs who grew up around the auto industry. One innovation after another, teamed out of the minds of engineers and workers in this city that led to one company after another. But the prosperity was attributed to the wrong forces. The growth was again and again seen as the outcome of three large parties: business, labor, and government. The recession of 1979, 1980, 81, and 82 that recession told us, this didn't hold. At that recession, economists from fancy Eastern universities went to Washington and told us what we needed was industrial policy. Sound familiar? In those days, we thought the Japanese were eating our lunch. Galbraith went to Washington and said to the Congress and to the President, we need Keiretsu. We need the Japanese system with the government and huge businesses control all things. We will have industrial policy and everything will come out right. Now the unseen problem that opened in the 1980s is that future didn't happen. We did not create central planning in Washington. Instead, we had a marvelous revival of entrepreneurship starting around 1980. Now this happened for all kinds of reasons, not the least of which were totally accidental. For example, we passed ERISA, in fact, to protect the pensions of people whose businesses were going out of business. And in that law, we permitted people to invest their own money. And we also permitted venture capital firms to be funded with pension money. Around the same time, we saw people like Mike Milken take huge, lazy companies apart, underperforming companies, and release value in them. And entrepreneurial managers moved in and brought to life all kinds of new businesses. Almost overnight, our economy was jump-started. But in the process, we invented a word for these people. It was entrepreneur. When I graduated from college, and when many of you graduated from college, the word entrepreneur was not in our vocabulary. These entrepreneurs became critical to the rebirth of our economy. Unless you make any mistake about that, let me offer you but one statistic you should remember as you walk out of here today. Fully 1/3 of this year's gross domestic profit, all the goods and services made in this economy this year, come from companies that did not exist in 1980. We have had a tremendous surge of creativity expressed in commerce by old people and young people. The myth is alive that only youngsters do these things. But let me suggest to you that among the 500 fastest growing firms in the United States, of the 500 fastest growing firms, the average age of the founder at starting those firms is 39. Entrepreneurship is part of the fabric of America. And by the way, It is a stronger force in America today, if left free, than it has ever been since the beginning of the 20th century, when this city and many other cities came to life at the hands of their entrepreneurs. Now you can see where I'm going with this. It's to a new definition, a new perspective on the American economy. And I believe it is a hopeful perspective, one that if we could in fact engage it, would bring this recession to a halt and bring us to a new level of growth in the United States that would undoubtedly begin to affect the fortunes of this, the most desperate of all cities. What is our new vision of the economy? I would suggest that in addition to large firms, which increasingly are getting smaller, and they were on that track until the government now finding itself enamored of a new wave of industrial policy, began to rescue banks, auto companies, labor unions, and now venture capital firms, and maybe newspapers, because they are, quote, too big to fail. If you want to hear a phrase that does not fit capitalism, the capitalism that brought wealth to this country and to this city, it is a phrase, too big to fail. Fail is part of capitalism. Fail is part of the dynamic that makes people more energetic. It is part of the dynamic that puts people in situations where they think through things. It is part of the dynamic where people become particularly creative, starting new businesses to disrupt the old business. It is entrepreneurs, plus what we call in our book, good capitalism, bad capitalism, a new vision of big firm, small firm partnerships. Well, the industrial laboratories closed. Bell Labs discussed. Increasingly, we turn to young firms to do the research and discovery for our existing firms. This has become a highly efficient process by which we give generous rewards to people who take enormous risks with their careers in pursuit of new creative ideas. Our universities are much more important than they were once, certainly in 1960 and certainly in the 1900s. It's where a huge amount of our brain power is, and new ideas are started. And those ideas are central to the creation of a new economy if we can get them out. I'll speak to that in a minute. And lastly, at least in the 1980s, the role the government played in funding new businesses through the SBIR program, not making judgments about businesses, but making money available to businesses in supporting university research that could be commercialized, was critical to that surge of productivity. Before I speak specifically to what might be done, I want to pause here and make the case for capitalism. When I met with the students today, one of the students said, well, essentially, is there anything good to be said for capitalism? And politicians parade the country over, attempting to enlarge the government by vilifying the operation of capitalism. The city exists because of capitalism, and it is not on the ropes because of capitalism, all by itself. But let's step out of the United States and see what people see in the United States. Our growth through the 1980s is not only wonderful for America, it was an extraordinary example to the world. If anyone knows what's happened in China and India, if you visit there, you can see two countries, albeit one still struggling under the overburden of a communist political system. You can see two countries struggling to look like the 1980s version of American capitalism. Entrepreneurship is rampant in both countries. We have free markets in both countries. And what's happened as a result is truly of enormous significance historically. Since 1980, we have reduced the number of people in the world in destitute poverty by at least 30%.